Hello and welcome to this Year 9 webinar about opinion writing. So there are three key takeaways, three key learning aims. The first one is using persuasive techniques. When we're thinking about persuasive writing and opinion writing, this is vital. The second one is understanding audience awareness and really being aware of the audience. And then finally, it's structuring and shaping an argument. Now, all of this is designed around a specific assignment. Strict parents create rebellious children. Now, for your opinion writing, we really want you to pass with flying colors. So the pass stands for persuasive techniques, audience awareness, and structuring and shaping an argument. So this assignment, Strict Parents Create Rebellious Children, is an article for your school website. Now you have to decide whether you are for the statement that strict parents create rebellious children or against the statement. Now, because this is a school website article, you will be writing for parents, but you'll also be writing for teachers, for your fellow peers, some of whom you know and you're familiar with, and others who you don't know. So your writing needs to maintain formality, and you also need to make sure that you don't write you, because you could be children and young people who are younger than you or older than you, could be parents, could be teachers. So avoid you. Now, you need to decide, are you going to be for this statement? Would you agree about some of these aspects that you could argue in your opinion writing? You may well say that strict parents are unreasonable. They're impossible to talk to. And so communication breaks down, and when people aren't talking and listening to each other, children become rebellious. You may also say that strict parents provide inadequate emotional support, that children need to be comforted and strictness is not what they need. You might also say that strict parents can anger and frustrate their children, and therefore the likelihood of arguments is far more increased. And you could also say that strict parents have unreasonable expectations. Sometimes they expect the impossible from their children. And you could also say that strict parents are much less effective than kind parents, and therefore they create rebellious children. So this would be if you agree with the statement. However, if you disagree with the statement, if you're against the statement, you may well say that strict parents protect their children. There are all sorts of dangers and there are all sorts of things in the world that children are not aware of, and that's a parent's job, to be strict, to protect a child. You may also say that strict parents protect children from bad influences. It's not just things in the world, it may well be other children that are bad influences, and if parents are strict and they limit access to all sorts of people, they would stop you from being influenced by the wrong people. You may also say that actually strict parents stop you from being locked away in your room on a device, and they enable children to spend time with family, to spend time with friends in the real world rather than online in a virtual world. You may say also that strict parents make sure homework is done. Strict parents ensure that you go to children go to extracurricular activities, and therefore they deter children from failure in later life. And then you may also say that strict parents actually make their children respect them, and therefore they're a parenting role model, that when their own children have children, they'll be able to inspire respect. So those may well be some arguments for or against this statement. And for this assignment, you decide which side of the argument you're on. Now, in order to be convincing and for your opinion writing to really be compelling, you need to think about using persuasive techniques. Now, DeForest is a really helpful way of remembering some persuasive techniques that are effective. The first D in the first list of DeForest, now there are two DeForest lists, but the first list And the first D is for direct address. You guessed it. I am sure I am feeling what we all must be feeling. So you, I, we, direct address, inclusive language is persuasive for your readers. Alliteration, comfort, not curfews, love, not limitations. It makes these phrases memorable. So it's the same sound at the beginning of letters. Facts. Did you know that teenagers sleep more than newborn babies? So facts are interesting items that again would appeal to the logical side of the argument for your readers. Opinions of experts, according to Dr. Preet at the University of Faddington. So even though it's an opinion, because it's a doctor, someone from a university, someone who's an expert, it sounds much more convincing. Rhetorical questions. So obviously these are statement questions. They're not asking for an answer. Why on earth don't parents listen? You're not expecting someone to give an answer or response. It's the rhetorical question that's getting that rhetoric, that opinion across. The E is for exaggeration. It may take 1,000,000 tears to change the mind of a strict parent. So you've got the over-the-top, hyperbolic, exaggeration that's being used. The S is for statistics. Did you know that teenager years or adolescence actually starts at the age of 10? So statistics is number data. Triplets for this first de Forest is 3. So no compromise, no weakness, no negotiation. So telling parents to stand firm and to be strict. So that's the first set of de Forest techniques, but there's also another set that's much more about being creative and imaginative and using description as a way of being persuasive. So the D is description, crushed under the burden of expectation. So here you've got a metaphor being used to really get this idea that strict parents can crush the soul of children and make them rebellious. An anecdote is a story example, and that's a way that you as a writer can sound credible because you have an experience, or you can bring an experience it's actually happened in real life. For example, one 11-year-old had a schedule that planned her every waking minute. So again, it's talking about strict parents and how they suffocate children and create rebellion. Forceful phrases for this de Forest is the F. So things like surely, clearly, certainly, obviously, in all honesty, without a shadow of doubt, to be honest, to be frank. They add that level of confidence and assurance to your writing. Onomatopoeia could be a very good persuasive technique, especially if you're talking about piercing screams and howls and shrieks and stomping upstairs, slamming of doors, cracking plaster, shattering glass that comes with the arguments for strict parenting. The R for this de Forest is ridicule. So you could use sarcasm and irony very effectively to show that the decision is not a good decision, that you're ridiculing or mocking and finding criticism in a particular idea or a particular approach. So for example, one good idea would be to take a desperately insecure child who's crying out for love and attention and give them a harsh regime that kills their connection with their family as well as any personal creativity. Obviously, this is not a good idea, to kill personal creativity, to kill connection with family. But the ridicule and the sarcasm, the irony is highlighting that it isn't a good idea, almost like reverse psychology. For this de Forest, the S is for simile, so you're using like or as. Again, it's used descriptively, but you can use it as a powerful persuasive technique. For example, parents like embattled superheroes stand for what is right, and despite impossible odds, they win. So that simile is really talking about strict parents being superheroes and standing firm despite resistance. And then the T is for telling or imperatives. Don't give in. Let's try a different approach. These bossy verbs and imperatives can be very effective in being persuasive and really convincing your readers of your viewpoint and your opinion. The last set of persuasive techniques I would call heat. Now they're slightly more sophisticated, but they're very easy to use. The H here in the heat is hypophora. It's when you pose a question and then you answer it yourself. Is it good enough? Of course not. Do we need change? Obviously. So you set the agenda, you set the question. Can you ask any question? If you like. Is it really effective? Very much. Is it simple to use? Well, you can see it is. The E for this heat of these particular persuasive techniques is for epistrophe. So it's the same word or phrase at the end of a sentence, at the end of a phrase that's really emphatic to get that idea across emphatically again and again and again. There will be resistance. Parents must stand strong. Scowls will be seen. Parents must stand strong. Tantrums will be thrown. Parents must stand strong. Anger will erupt. Parents must stand strong. So you can see the epistrophe, the same phrase, parents must stand strong, is really emphatic and showing that strict parenting, although it's difficult, will pay off in the end. The A is anaphora, which is the opposite of epistrophe, where you have the same word or phrase at the start of a sentence. So something like this: arguments at the dinner table, arguments by the television, arguments beside the sink, arguments over gaming consoles. You can see that arguments is there to show that strict parenting actually causes more conflict than it's constructive. The T is for a tricolon, so it's repeating words, but it's also repeating sentence structures 3 times. For example, every early morning the parents make us wake up. Each late night the parents threaten us with homework. All the after-school clubs that parents force us to attend are an investment into our future. So you can see every, each, all, that parents, these are all repeated, they're parallel structures. So you've got the tricolon there that's emphatic. And then epizeuxis is repetition right within the sentence, lots and lots of repetition within the sentence. So for example, children, yes, all children, even the most kind and respectful children, yes, all children need boundaries. So that real ramming of the repetition, forcing all of that into one sentence, is epizeuxis. So I hope that you will think about using all of these different persuasive techniques for your argument. Now, the argument is not going to be well won unless you really understand and think about the audience. Now, what first way of doing that is really anticipating their concerns. So you really think, right, what are they worried about? I understand and accept that the world is a dangerous place for young people. So you're showing that you understand it, you're anticipating their concerns. But the dangers of us creating rebellious adolescents through strict parenting is also serious. So you're not throwing away their argument or their opinion or their concerns. You're accepting them, you're understanding them, but you're adding your own concerns to show that your viewpoint alongside theirs is valid. So when you understand your audience's concerns, your argument can be shaped and targeted very effectively so they really understand and accept your concerns. What about counter argument? It's clear that children should be given choices in life. No one would disagree with this. So you're giving them their viewpoint. You accept that viewpoint. However, I am sure that you also agree that a dangerous choice is never a sensible choice to give young people. So you're countering that argument with something else that sounds even more sensible, that you give them choices, but you can't give them dangerous choices. That wouldn't be sensible. So implicit agreement, this is when you're really understanding and aware of your audience, you're getting them to agree with you. We are all aware. So can you see that implicit agreement? You're getting them to agree with you. We are all aware of the pain of isolation and rejection, which is why we must reject strict parenting that isolates children from their friends and makes them unable to develop social skills. So you can see you're getting them to agree with you. So you really understand your audience. And then a shared understanding, really understanding what they share, the values that they share. We have all experienced anxiety and fear, which is why we must protect our children from the fear and anxiety that comes with weak parenting and lax boundaries. So understanding what they've experienced and using that to drive forwards your own opinion and your own viewpoint. So it's really key as an opinion writer that you think about your audience, their concerns, their arguments, you get them to agree with you because you show that you understand them and you understand and share their experiences. Okay, the last part of this webinar is really about how we bring it all together, how we shape our argument. And when I say argument, I don't mean fighting. It just means your opinion that is reasoned. So it's a 3-step structure. You would write your introduction, you would write your main body, and you would also write your conclusion. But within the main body, you would also have 3 steps. You would write about because, your reasons. You would write but, so you'd be anticipating their reasons, really thinking about your audience. And then so, giving some solutions, practical responses, or compromises. So visually, it would look something like this. You'd have your introduction, you'd have your say, you'd use statistics, anecdotes, and pose a question. Then your main body would be the 3 main parts. Because, what are the reasons why you agree or disagree with this idea? The but, using the other side of the argument, being aware of your audience, being aware of their concerns and their experiencing, but still placing your opinions next to them so they're valid. And then the so, solutions, actions, and compromises, before you end with a strong conclusion, summary, imperatives, and circularity. So for this assignment, strict parents create rebellious children, writing an article for your school website. What would it look like overall to structure and shape your argument? Well, the introduction, you might use statistics like, did you know that in the UK, children spend on average over 6 hours a day on an electronic device? Did you know that a recent survey shows that 87% of young people feel that strict parenting has ruined their life? So you would start with a statistic that proves your viewpoint if you're for or if you're against. You'd also perhaps include an anecdote, so something from your own personal experience. My parents decided, to show that you understand this, that you're credible, you're trustworthy. And then you'd pose a problem or a question. So something like this: if you're not for the statement, if you're saying something like, let me ask you, does it not make sense to provide strict parenting to help children to succeed in life? So doesn't it make sense? So giving that question you're posing. Or if you're against, you say, let me ask you, how does it make sense to restrict children's choices with strict parenting when in fact we should be preparing them for independence? So you're posing a question, a rhetorical question that really gets your viewpoint. So your introduction is very powerful, very thought through. It's showing your viewpoint very clearly. What about the main body? Well, you would give 3 reasons why you agree, why you disagree. And you might decide that you're going to be for, or you might be against. But here you're really thinking about these reasons, and you may well have heard of this: ethos, pathos, and logos. So you're thinking about reasons that show that you're trustworthy, that your experience and your character and your reputation means that you are a credible writer. You're really thinking about the emotional ideas and stories, but also about logic and facts and figures. So you may well think about using speed. The S stands for social. So how would strict parenting affect relationships? How would it affect societies? Would it make people more or less likely to go to church or other places of worship? Would it make them more or less likely to be positive or negative about their schooling? How would strict parenting affect communities? Then practically, how does it work practically? How does strict parenting affect schedules or plans or time or jobs or holidays? What about emotionally? How would strict parents affect mental health, self-esteem, mind health? Would it increase it? Would it decrease it? How would strict parenting affect the economy? Would it make people richer? Would it make them poorer? How would it affect jobs and resources? What about ecological issues? Would strict parenting make us more eco-friendly or less eco-friendly? Perhaps if they're strict, they drive their children around everywhere, and that might waste petrol and damage the environment. And what about dangers? Maybe you can think about extreme cases of strict parenting. So in this section, you'd really think about your evidence. And then you would give the other side of the viewpoint. You challenge it. You think about your audiences, their concern, their arguments, their ideas, their experiences, and you challenge that. So you might say, I understand that some people would say that strict parenting gives inadequate social emotional support, but actually it really helps children academically. You might say, I understand that people think that the likelihood of arguments is higher with strict parenting, but actually the likelihood of resilience and determination is higher. I understand that some people say that kindness is more effective, but actually kindness might be weakness. So you're giving the other side in this but section. And again, the positives to challenge. I understand that some people say that we need to protect children from danger, but actually we need to prepare them for the future. I understand that some people say that strict parents stops children from academic failure, but what about failure of being a parent and having a good relationship with your child? And you might say, I understand that some people say that strict parenting ensures that parents are respected, but you might be respected. Would a parent want to be hated? So in this section, you're giving the other side of the argument. And then the final section in the main body would be the so. What solutions, what actions, what compromises are available? You might talk about win-win scenarios. Which situations is it possible for the parent to feel happy and the child to feel happy? What about using an inspiration? For example, respect is learned, not earned, and talk about how parents, despite being strict, must still be respectful so their children learn that level of respect. And you might even say, well, let's look at redefining strict. Let's have this balanced, tough love approach where children really genuinely appreciate strictness and because they see it as love. And then in your conclusion, you would hopefully give a summary. Overall, 3 main reasons why I believe that strict parenting does or doesn't create rebellious children. And then imperative, let's make our parenting better before you have some circularity. Now, circularity means you return to where you started at the beginning. So in your introduction, you said something about my parents last week, and you might return to this. Maybe when I talk to my own parents, we will agree, and you have that sense of circularity that makes the whole argument seem really well structured and watertight. Okay, so I hope that has helped you with your assignment. Strict parents create rebellious children. It's your turn. Why not have a go at writing this assignment? Don't forget to use DeForest, different types of persuasive techniques with heat. Don't forget to anticipate the concerns and experiences so that you really are aware of what your audience would say, that you make your opinions valid alongside theirs without dismissing it. Don't forget to think about using speed to really think about balancing and developing your ideas. And don't forget about using these 3-part structures to shape and organize your appearance. To shape and organize your argument. I hope that this has helped you. Thank you for joining me.